We're back after a week, and we come back to what looks like a major storm that is setting up in the plains for Friday, and that's going to be moving into southeastern Canada. We'll be bringing late season winter storm to much of the plain states, and we're going to have a widespread severe weather outbreak tomorrow in the Mississippi and Ohio valleys, and we've got other weather going on. And in the Northeast, get ready for the screaming wind over the weekend. And we've got a whole lot more coming up. That's tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, and Southwest Suffolk County on Long Island. They're in spring mode, topsoil, sand, and mulch, and anything else you need to make sure your house or your business is landscaped oh so perfectly. And the telephone number is 631-756-1125. And of course, Joe Rayo has not forgotten the website because it is
OmniTrueValue.com. Joe, welcome back.
Yes, thank you. It was a great few days off with some hitches along the way. I hope everybody on the chat board missed us. I think they did. I got enough messages along the way. Is there a show tonight? Is there a show tonight? Is there a show tonight? Well, before I get to that story, I want to let everybody know that following this broadcast tonight, and I assume that my audio is sounding okay, but so far I'm not seeing anybody complaining that it isn't. Right after this show is over at 8:45 p.m. on this channel, the Stormfront Freaks podcast, where Joe Rayo was one of the guests last night, along with James Spann, Jen Walton. You remember Jen Walton from Girls Who Chase? We had her on back in January. James Brayton, Mike Mahalik, Phil Johnson. That's at 8:45 p.m. So as soon as we're done, just stick around, go back to the YouTube channel, Joe Cioffi Weather, and get ready for the premiere. The link is up on the chat board. It's pinned to the top. Okay? And Mr. Rayo, you participated in that last night, and it went well.
Yeah, I certainly enjoyed being a part of it, and was honored to share the same stage with James Spann, who I actually met for a very, very brief moment back at the National Weather Association conference in 2011. And I was going to bring this up, but he was on for such a short time because he was getting ready to do the 6 o'clock Central Daylight Time news. This was at 7 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time here in our time zone. So he couldn't be on for very long. But back in 2011, he gave such a heartfelt talk about the breakout of tornadic activity in the Birmingham, Alabama area. He's been on Birmingham television now, a true living legend down there for many, many years, and gave a talk about those tornadoes when I was at the conference back in 2011. By the way, Joe, happy birthday tonight to another living legend of weather locally, right here in the tri-state area, Dr. Frank Field.
Yes.
And Frank turned 100 years young today. He's a century old. You still remember him, and really, he is still with us down in Florida. And happy birthday to Dr. Frank. We all grew up with him.
Field. Happy birthday, Frank
Birthday,
Field.
Frank Field.
Happy birthday, Frank Field. Happy birthday, Frank Field.
His first name, by the way, is Franklin, not with an L-I-M, but with a Y. With a Y. Franklin Field. Yep.
Yes. God bless him. Happy birthday, Frank Field. Inspired a lot of weather folks along the way of our generation. So big 100. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. No,
it's 100.
It's great. It's great.
Yep.
So, by the way, the plan was so everybody knows. So the plan was, at least the way I figured it was going to happen, was that we would do a live. We would have done a live show Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday I was going to simulcast the uh, Stormfront Freaks podcast live on our channel, so that everybody could see the show. However, it didn't quite work out that way. As Joe knows, because I told him, and I'll explain it now. My dongle broke. Okay, now I know how that sounds. But I didn't know this, but if in case you don't know, Joe, you probably have a dongle. Have you?
Well, if you want to call these that, yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't. It was. I'm wearing the headset, and I'm hardwired. A dongle. I didn't know this, but that's what they call that thing that looks like a thumb drive. Okay. And in the case of this headset, it's a little it's a little thing that looks like a thumb drive that you insert into the the USB, and it makes the Bluetooth connection. Well, I had it on my computer in my bag. The bag, in the middle of the night, decided to slip off a chair and go on the floor, which didn't break anything other than the dongle. It just literally broke it in half. So I figured, okay, I'm going to have to run out to Office Depot or Walmart or whatever and get a dongle. Well, unfortunately, the dongle that's made for this headset is specifically made for this headset. So I had to go to the company to get it. And unfortunately, when I went to the company to get it, they were out of stock. And there were only two that were available for sale on eBay. And apparently the person who's selling it knows that they're out of stock and is charging an incredible amount of money for it. So therefore, I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't do any of my regular videos during the day. I didn't have my substitute microphone. But anyway, long story short, I got the old mic back and figured it out so that everybody can hear me without audio issues. And I'm going to be waiting for the dongle, which apparently is in the mail. So who knows when it'll get here.
Are they going to send it? Was this through Amazon Prime?
Well, the company said that they would send me a replacement dongle if I had the proof, if I could show proof of purchase. And of course, Joe, 2 weeks ago, I cleaned out a whole bunch of stuff. And since I've had the headsets for 14 months, I figured, okay, I really don't need this. So I threw the box away. And the box had the receipt in it. So luckily, I bought it at Walmart. And I was able to go on the Walmart website and pull up all my old purchases going back for the last couple of years, and actually pull up the receipt, a copy of the receipt. So I sent it to them this morning, and they should be putting it in the mail either tonight or tomorrow. So hopefully I'll have it by Sunday or by Monday or Tuesday of next week. But in the meantime, we'll just make do with what we got. So again, a reminder: 8:45 tonight, the Stormfront Freaks podcast. Joe Rayo, James Spahn, Jen Walton. From Girls Who Chase, James Brighton, Michael Mahalan, Phil Johnson, 8:45 p.m. on my YouTube channel, Joe Cioffi Weather.
I should note, however, Joe, that Jen Walton was not able to join us last night.
Oh, okay.
She made a last minute exit. She had other priorities at that moment, so she was unable. But she was the only one. Everybody else who you mentioned did show up, and we did have a very nice time.
Great, that's great. So stick around after the show. In the meantime, we have what looks like it's going to be another big severe weather event tomorrow for the Ohio Valley and for the Mississippi Valley. SBC's got 2 moderate risks already posted.
It's going to be interesting. I was a little surprised. I thought that all of that would head east and we too would be in maybe not moderate, but at least a slight risk of severe weather on Saturday. And it still may turn out that way.
I think there's a chance it will. By the way, I just looking at everything today. I think there's a chance with that upper trough coming through late in the afternoon and evening.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It looked to me like certainly a potent enough system to warrant, at least for small areas, a slight risk. And we're in general thunderstorm coverage. I think we will see a threat of at least a gusty thunderstorm or two later in the day on Saturday. Saturday's going to be an interesting day. People waking up, there'll be a bit of fog, there'll be some clouds, there'll be maybe a couple of showers. Then during the late morning and midday, skies will brighten. During the early and mid part of the afternoon, maybe some breaks in the clouds, maybe some sunshine. Temperatures soaring, perhaps even above 70 in many spots. And then we'll await the arrival of the front and the trough from the west, which could ignite some rather potentially strong storms here later Saturday into Saturday evening.
Yeah, but I think tomorrow's going to be a pretty wicked day across the Mississippi and Ohio Valley with this storm, and it's kind of an odd system because it's going pretty much straight west to east across the northern plains and the Great Lakes. It's not one of these storms that's coming down, coming out for say from southeast Texas and then running up northeastward up the west side of the Appalachians. This is really coming over the top, and you're getting some really strong Pacific inflow, subtropical moisture from the Pacific that's already coming into Texas and setting it up for tomorrow. Plus, you've got cold air on the other side, on the other side of this low, and there's going to be some widespread winter storm, and which you're going to take a look at widespread winter storm conditions and blizzard conditions in parts of the northern plains.
Yep, on the first day of the baseball, well, actually tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the second day of the baseball season. I was talking to somebody, Joe, last night, and they're talking about what the weather was going to be like at Yankee Stadium today. Beautiful, clear, bright day, but temps in the 40s, wind chills in the 30s. And I said, I remember there was a time once where the ball clubs were still down in Florida, still getting ready for the season, nice and warm down there. And they didn't start the baseball season until the second week of April. But now here we are. March is still not quite over yet. And today was the first day of the season. And I'm thinking ahead for my Mets. My Mets played down in Florida today, but I think the next team they're going to be facing after Florida are the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee. And I can tell you, you don't want to try playing baseball in Milwaukee or any part of the Western Great Lakes or the Northern Plains over these next few days with the combination of snow and unseasonably, if not unreasonably, cold weather.
By the way, 27 this morning. I just got back from St. Augustine where it was in the middle 80s. I think one of the days we got to 88. I think it was Monday. We got to 88. We had some storms Tuesday evening. And I got to stop at Buc-ee's, two different Buc-ee's on the way home yesterday. One in St. Augustine, where I filled up my tank and then refilled it back up in central Georgia at the Buc-ee's at exit 144. And then that got me home last night. So anyhow, let's look at what's happening. Nice free plug for Buc-ee's. If you've never been to a Buc-ee's gas station, they're in the South, and they're mostly in Texas, but there's a few of them now opening up in other states, and you have to go to a gas station and have a religious experience. You need to go to a Buc-ee's. So here we go as we take a look at the watches and warnings tonight, and there are quite a few of them for the end of March. We've got winter storm warnings in south parts of western South Dakota, blizzard warnings for central and eastern South Dakota, into a few counties down into Minnesota. A few other winter storm warnings extending into north central Minnesota. Also, a few up in northern Wisconsin. Winter storm watches surround all of that, and we'll probably see more warnings go up before this is all said and done. We also have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings up for much of Montana, into Idaho, parts of western Wyoming, also up and down the middle part of Utah, We have winter storm warnings up for the interior areas of Oregon and Washington, up and down the Cascades. Wind advisories are posted from eastern Arizona across New Mexico into northwest Texas and Oklahoma, up and in the middle and down into the lower Mississippi Valley. We're going to see those get expanded as well. They already have preliminary. I think those are high wind watches. Yes, high wind watches up for the North Carolina mountains, the mountains of Western Virginia, much of West Virginia into Southwest PA, and I think we'll probably see more of those. And wind advisories will be going up for much of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states before this is all said and done. Satellite-wise tonight. Finally got this loop to work. I was having trouble with the goes page, but I finally got it to where all the frames loaded. But you can already see this setup, Joe. You got look at this long subtropical jet that's coming in to Texas and Oklahoma tonight, and then you look back up to the northwest of that, and you can see the rotation of the deep upper trough that's in the western part of the United States. There's a shocker. There's a trough in the western part of the United States. Who knew? That is going to join with all of this, and we're going to see a fairly substantial severe weather outbreak show up for tomorrow. Which, by the way, I think unless you're not doing anything, unless you've got something to do tomorrow, well, we'll do the show tomorrow night.
I have to. There are a few things going on here, which one of them is, I think, what you know.
Okay. Never mind then. Well, maybe I'll solo if you can't. So we'll
yeah.
Want to make up for some of those missing days that we just had. Meanwhile, nice and clear in the east. And by the way, last night's weather system that moved on through a few people, including Mr. Dennis Cassia, who reported that he had a coating of snow on the grass this morning. And congratulations to Dennis, by the way, being named to the Firefighters Hall of Fame, which is awesome. Congratulations to you. But that system last night just pretty well was the winter in a sense, because we get a quick shot of cold air. I mean, this was really the story all winter long. These quick little shots of cold air that came in. This one day, highs only in the low to mid 40s, which is about 10 degrees below average, and then out it goes because all the energy just continues to pile on in the western part of the U.S.
It's interesting for me to look at what's going on out west, and it seems to be a stripe of maybe as much as 4 to 12 inches of snow that runs from South Dakota northeastward, actually goes through, I think, a part of the southern end of Minnesota. I think in Minneapolis is in that zone, and then continues across the upper peninsula of Michigan and on into part of Ontario. It is quite significant, quite extensive, and what more can you say? What a way to finish out the final day finish out the month of March on the final day with a stripe of that significant snow on the map. And indeed, to the south of that, that's where we'll be looking at unseasonably warm air, and also that possibility over these next couple of days of severe weather. It is, I guess you could say, Joe, that March is supposed to end, come in like a lion, end like on a lamb note, but this is certainly not lamb-like. This is every bit of a very dynamic weather pattern that's shaping up for, I guess, the central and eastern part of the United States.
Yeah. WPC has this is the probability of at least 8. And it's in that area where we've got the blizzard warnings in South Dakota. Also, a 50 to 90% chance of at least 8 across much of northern Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan. So it's a pretty robust system for this time of year. In the west, you could also see up and down the Cascades. We see a very high probability of at least 8 there. Also in central and northern Idaho and in western Wyoming, showing a rather high probability of at least 8 inches out of this. Radar tonight, and we're going to take a look at that and see what's going on. There is a little bit of thunderstorm activity that's in play tonight. First, we'll start in the west. You can see there's areas of snow in Montana and Idaho and in Wyoming down into Utah. Some showers down in Southern California and in parts of Arizona. We push our way further to the east, and you can see a complex of showers and some thunderstorms that have broken out. Nothing severe here, at least not yet, in eastern Oklahoma. And again, you start to see the pieces today of what's going to happen tomorrow when you see how the radar echoes are setting up and you see how the satellite is setting up tonight. The Storm Prediction Center, SPC, has 2 areas of marginal risk overnight. One in northernmost part of central Texas, I guess we can call it that, and much of central and eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, and a small portion of southwest Missouri. Also, a marginal risk from northeast Nebraska into southwestern Minnesota and northwestern Iowa. But the big day is tomorrow, where SPC has 2 areas of moderate risk, one in eastern Iowa and northwestern Illinois, and another in northeastern Arkansas and western Tennessee. The enhanced risk extends southward into central Mississippi, not far from where they got hammered last week, by the way, and also into northwestern Alabama, much of Missouri, much of Arkansas, all in enhanced risk. An even larger area of slight marginal risk, the marginal risk extending into central Ohio and down the west side of the Appalachians into northwestern Georgia. Moving along to the next day, so that's for Friday into Saturday, for Saturday during the day side. And I'm thinking they're going to expand that marginal risk, or they may even have a separate area. I don't know how they're going to draw this, but they do have a marginal risk in western PA and western New York and eastern Ohio, also in eastern North Carolina, South Carolina, down into southern Georgia, and into the Florida Panhandle. But I'm thinking that they might add some, maybe make that marginal risk a bit bigger. That upper trough that's coming through, to me, looks pretty strong.
Yeah, it's small, but it's rather potent. And at this time of the year, now we're transitioning into April. These kind of situations sometimes provide low top convection, which leads to pea-sized type hail. I mean, these could be, we could see a pretty nasty spell for a short little of time here later in the day on Saturday. And a lot is going to depend, Joe, on just how much cloud cover breaks up and allows for sunshine. Right now, I mean, in the lower Hudson Valley in my forecast, I went maybe conservative. I said highs on Saturday within a degree or two of 68, but give a few hours of sunshine, the temperatures could easily soar into the low and mid 70s. And then you got that trough coming in from the west, and boom, you're instantly into a severe thunderstorm warning. So that's something that we'll be watching very carefully for Saturday. But then behind all of this on Sunday, it looks like it's going to be a brilliantly sunny, albeit much cooler, and also rather breezy, if not downright windy day, with the winds coming out of that west-northwesterly direction behind that trough, behind that front.
By the way, I just want to mention that for tomorrow, there are 2 areas of 15% risk. They actually raised this. They had the southern moderate risk zone earlier today was in the 15%, but the moderate risk zone in northwestern Illinois and eastern Iowa was at a 10% risk, but now they've made them both at 15. So that's fairly significant here, and I will see. It will be interesting to see tomorrow whether they stick a high risk in there somewhere, especially thinking that they were kind of on tender hooks after folks are certainly and rightfully so nervous about the severe weather potential considering what happened last week with that EF4 the name of the town, the town now escapes me, in Mississippi. But anyway, hopefully we will not have another EF4 to talk about tomorrow.
Well, we talk about the Deep South, but I mean, just a stone's throw away to the west of Chicago, there could be some really nasty weather with this approaching system. So it's not just the Deep South, but also well north. That could be in line for some really potent weather, like around Iowa, for example, tomorrow in the afternoon, evening.
Yep, no question. Okay, as far as, let's see what WPC's got on here. Okay, that's not what I want. So
Rolling Fork, by the way, Joe.
Rolling Fork. Yeah,
Rolling Fork,
couldn't
Mississippi.
remember. All right. Flash flood risks, marginal risk in southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, northernmost Iowa, a small portion of the southeastern corner of South Dakota, and across central Wisconsin. Now, tomorrow, WPC has a rather large area of marginal and slight risk corresponding with that severe weather threat. With the slight risk area that we saw on the SPC map, so that'll be also one of the things that they're going to have to worry about with this, along with the severe weather. And we also have a marginal risk for flash flooding on Saturday in the southeast, South Carolina, Georgia, and southeastern Alabama. Rainfall forecast from WPC, if I can find what I did with those. They're around someplace. Here we go. So these are the 7-day rainfall amounts, and we're looking at rather hefty liquid precip amounts from East Texas up into the lower Mississippi Valley in Tennessee and lower Ohio Valley, anywhere from 1.5 inches to as much as several inches. And also across the Great Lakes, particularly across central Wisconsin, into northern Michigan and into the upper peninsula of Michigan, 2 to 3 inches of liquid. Now, some of that is going to be rain, but in the northern part of that zone there of that precip, we're going to see a change over to snow and some heavy snows, and that's where we have some of the winter storm warnings that are up. Also, heavy precip amounts in the Pacific Northwest. The Northeast down from central New Jersey, it's a 1/2 inch. You move up into New England, it's about 3/4 inch to an inch, and it's really mostly about this lead system, this system for tomorrow and Saturday that's going to produce the bulk of all of this. Now, I've got the 18Z NAM up, and I noticed, a couple of things. So you see the arc that's out in the ocean, that's left from that system from last night. Of course, that's long gone. Our high is quickly moving offshore. We've got, it's kind of strange here. The low center's back in Nebraska, and you've got this push of showers tomorrow into Pennsylvania, and then reaching the coast sometime late in the afternoon in New Jersey and in the Hudson Valley, and then eventually in southern New England. Some snow well up to the north on the northern edge. That sort of runs out separate. That's sort of a weird warm front that's pushing into the eastern part of the United States, and then that goes by, and then there's another surge in the morning. So there looks like, Joe, there's a lead front of some kind that goes by sometime early Saturday, morning around daybreak, and then after 11 a.m. This is where what you were talking about. You're going to break out, potentially break out into some sunshine, and then you'll notice that the low center is in southwestern New York, and there's this little hook there with the upper trough, and the 18Z NAM kind of went to town with this by 8 o'clock Saturday evening. It's got a kind of a nice, when I say nice, I mean in terms of how it looks, in terms of the radar presentation. Not that it's nice that we've got thunderstorms there, but you get what I mean here, folks. We have a rather impressive looking shortwave here that's being reflected on with these radar echoes of some showers and thunderstorms coming through early Saturday evening. So that model certainly says that there's some
you could see
some stronger storms.
You could see the comma shape of that. And again, this is now, you said the 18Z NAM, right?
Right.
So,
But it's on
I
the
don't
other.
know.
It's on the other models in some one form or another.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. What is the three? That's the 12 kilometer, I presume, right?
Yeah. So let's look at the 3, because this would be a pretty good situation for where the 3 could do pretty well. It has it, particularly across Pennsylvania, that it kind of weakens the southern part of it. Uh, so,
Probably
but
because of interaction. Probably with interaction with the onshore coastal breezes that'll try to knock the strength of that system, knock the strength of the storms down. But for places that are, let's say, west of the Hudson River, late Saturday, this could be somewhat of an anxious time to watch and see what happens out of this. So it'll make things interesting for Saturday afternoon and evening.
By the way, might as well go back and go back further here with this upper low. That's a really vigorous upper low that's coming out of Nebraska. This is for tomorrow night, and you see the strong jet that's swinging through Missouri and into northwestern Illinois and into Iowa. And then you've got all these jet streaks on the southern, further south, and ahead of that in Tennessee, western Kentucky, Tennessee, down into Mississippi, northwest Mississippi, northeastern Louisiana. So it's going to be that jet though. The jet particular, it looks to me like the part that's up in northwestern Illinois and eastern Ohio may be more impressive than the part that's to the south, because they got those 2 moderate risk zones.
Right.
I mean, look, I guess I shouldn't really say that because they're both areas are considered at risk. I'm just pointing out that the jet in northwestern Illinois is pretty impressive there. And then you see the jet streaks here. Here's the first batch Saturday morning between, say, 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. with all those little pockets of 50, 60 knot winds that go by. And then you wait for the main upper trough, and there it is. I mean, this upper low, it's a vigorous upper low that moves across northern Pennsylvania, right over or just north of New York City into Connecticut during later Saturday evening. I'll tell you this, it's going to blow away once the axis of that trough goes by.
I agree with you. I agree with you. As I said, it's small. The thing about the trough is it's very progressive. It's very fast moving. And, sometimes we talk about tropical systems that, might be a Cat 1 or 2. Sometimes you have to factor in the fact that, in a few cases, they might be moving at like 30 or 40 knots forward speed. You have to factor that in to the overall strength of the system. And indeed, the fast movement of this trough will certainly need to be factored in. It is going to be coming on in like one of those 40-ton Mack trucks on the Long Island Expressway, Joe.
Yeah, it doesn't always show up, but when you can see the winds on the 10 meter, and you see them there, you see them across that narrow stick that runs from a low center up near Syracuse and goes straight down into central Maryland. It's showing sustained winds of 30 knots or higher in that yellow. So that's got to be, that's the NAM 3's view. Let's look at the NAM 12 just to see what it has on that wind map here, because it was showing it pretty well earlier today. And, it's a little, it's a bit more diffuse, but still, it does show some rather strong wind gusts. You certainly could see that the isobars, especially once the low goes by and the upper trough goes by, they get really tight Saturday night into Sunday morning. I mean, it'll probably howl for at least 5 or 6 hours once that goes by. And you know what? Even ahead of it, the gradient is fairly tight. There's going to be a fairly strong southwest wind during the day on Saturday, particularly if you're going to have mixing going on with the surface temperatures that are going to try to make a run for 70 or better.
Absolutely. And Sunday, as I mentioned a few moments ago, a bit cooler than Saturday, but also a breezy, if not downright windy day. I could see winds on Sunday, sustained or steady speeds of like 15 to 20 miles an hour with some occasional gusts to 30, maybe even 40 miles an hour. So it'll be blowing out there. But just like we had today, Joe, although we didn't have really exceptionally strong winds, but Sunday looks to be a bright day, blue sky, brilliant sunshine as we usher in April. April coming in on Saturday, and hard to believe we've gotten through the first 3 months of the year.
Yep, first quarter's done. And by the way, speaking of wind, if you look on this, the 10-meter wind map here for Friday, this is for Friday night into Saturday. The gradient is also very tight throughout much of the areas west of the Appalachians, at least initially, and the gradient then gets even tighter on the east side of the Appalachians. It's not often that you see patches. The green is those lighter greens are talking about sustained winds of 25 knots or higher. That's sustained winds. So you could certainly at least 15 miles an hour on if you got a 25 knot sustained. So you're talking close to 30 miles an hour sustained. I mean, you certainly should be able to see gusts of 40 to 45 or maybe even 50, particularly during the day on Saturday across the Ohio Valley. As that upper trough swings through there, you've got also very, very tight pressure gradient that sets up down the Appalachians into the Carolina Mountains. So get ready to blow away there as well. So this is going to be a fairly widespread wind event with this storm system as it moves on through. The low's not particularly deep. I mean, it's an 88 low, but it's sort of a high pressure-ish kind of map. So it makes for a tight gradient. And then again, once that goes by, you see weather conditions improve on Sunday, though it will be colder and there will be a wind to deal with.
Yes, let's not, it will blow away here, folks.
Correct. All right, let me run through long range. And I think it's over, by the way, just in case anybody, I said that last week, and I'll say it again. And I think we're done. There's no sign of any kind of blocking pattern to speak of. It seems like it never, I wonder whether we're going to be still talking about snow into the month of May in the West, because this pattern just really will not go away. I mean, look at this. Another system dropping down. This is for Saturday, that drops down into the western part of the United States. And now we're into the middle part of next week. That gets kicked. There may be another important severe weather event around the middle part of next week in the plains, because you've got another vigorous upper low here dropping into, much like this one is, into the northwest. And then that moves northeastward up into North Dakota and Minnesota. So I think we could be seeing another big severe weather event in parts of the plains and the upper Midwest, perhaps, for the middle part of next week. And then once that goes away, well, it gets a little different in the east. You actually get a trough in the east, Joe, and 9 or 10 days from now, a couple of troughs in the east 9 or 10 days from now. Why is that happening? I don't know.
I will tell you this, at the Climate Prediction Center, and this is the first time in a long time I could remember this, for the risk of heavy snow from the 7th through the 13th of April. That's their 8 to 14 day outlook. No hazards posted. Nobody, not even out in the western United States, has any potential for heavy snow. So I would have to guess, Joe, siding with you, that once we get into April, the fat lady has pretty much sung, at least here in the eastern and central United States. Whether or not there might be a late season comeback over the west is yet to be seen. But I think that's it. And it looks like we have a brand new champion in terms of a paucity or lack of snow at Central Park this year, beating out what had been standing for, well, about 50 years, the winter of 72, 73, with like 2.8 inches of snow for the entire season. This year, I think we'll beat that by a few tenths of an inch. Amazing.
Yeah. So the best for snow lovers, the way to look at this is that it can't possibly be worse. Because even if you have a winter that follows up this one, that you get less than 2 inches, like, you really will notice the difference between what we had this year and a winter that you get 2 inches less. You can only go to 0, folks. That's as low as you can go. Meanwhile, of course, all-time records for snow being broken in the western part of the United States by a mile, by the way. Not just by a couple of inches or even a couple of feet. They're breaking it by many feet. So
And it'll be interesting to see what happens next winter, because next winter it would appear that we're heading for perhaps an El Nino
right.
to replace the La Nina that had been with us for almost 3 years.
Well, that'll bring its own set of issues, I'm sure. So we got many months to get there. Meanwhile, David Fuller, Joe, hitting Super Chat tonight.
Yes.
And he says he's looking forward to warmer weather soon. Any chance of severe weather for us anytime soon? Well, David, we already covered that. So the answer is, I guess, now, I don't know what kind of risks we're going to have on Saturday, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a strong thunderstorm or two and some pretty hefty wind gusts, regardless of whether we get into severe weather or not.
Yes, absolutely. And just looking on the chat board here at other comments, Adam Lowe commenting, next winter may be worse, as all of the models now say a strong El Nino
Adam,
or a super El Nino for
go
next
away.
winter.
Seriously. I was wondering.
I knew that was going to touch.
I was wondering because he's one of the, this is all he ever does. He's been saying that for 3 months. I don't care. Okay? I'm going to make it clear to you, Adam. I don't care. You have no idea whether there's going to be a strong El Nino or super El Nino for next winter. Okay?
Super duper El Nino.
Yeah, please stop.
Yeah.
I've unbelievable. It's the same trolling crap, and I can't stand it. I really can't. Now you know.
I was going to say.
Now you know we're back to normal. If I'm starting to get ornery.
I was going to say before I saw that note, I said, I'll bet you we'll have the first prediction about next winter next week sometime. And then
Jesus, this one has barely been laid to rest. Give it a break already. It can't be worse. It cannot be worse. All right? It just can't. Even if there's a strong El Nino, even if it's the El Nino of all El Ninos, okay, it cannot be worse than this winter was. It just can't.
Yes.
Because as far as I'm concerned, for most places, this was, pretty much a big 0. So if you have 2 big 0 winters in a row, then you have 2 big 0 winters in a row. What can I tell you? It be what it be. So I will tell you, though, on my drive down Sunday morning, I left early, and I drove into a complex of thunderstorms, Joe, where it rained like I haven't seen it rain in 50 miles at 5 o'clock in the morning, pitch black dark. They don't have lights on long stretches of I-75. If it wasn't for the flashing lights of the car in front of me doing 5 miles an hour in the pouring rain, you couldn't see the road. You couldn't see anything. So I just kind of had to follow these headlights, and it was a good 40 to 50 miles of this. It started just south of Atlanta when I got past Atlanta airport, and then it miraculously stopped raining about 10 miles before I got to Buc-ee's. So, because it's not allowed to rain at Buc-ee's.
David Schwartz, thank you for hitting Super Chat. Joe, he writes, doomsayers think that we will get into the 80s temperature-wise next January and February in Super El Nino, 0 snow, LOL.
Yeah, okay.
Now, do you have Jeopardy, Brother Jeopardy, or?
The only thing I'll say, Keith James, to response to what you said about the snow weenies declaring winter dead back in December, they do that every year. As long if there's very little, if it hasn't already snowed a foot of snow by the end of November, they have already proclaimed the winter to be over with. So there's no value in anything snow weenies say, because they're just emotional wrecks for 12 months out of the year. Do I have it? I don't think so. I don't have it. Do you have it?
I don't think I have one
Yeah,
either.
I haven't heard from Scott in a while, so I'm gonna message him. He's been taking care of his mom, and
I
uh,
will I will say one thing. I did hear from Scott earlier today, and he thanked me for the fact that I had mentioned when I was trying to describe our show on last night's podcast seminar. I said, we just don't always talk about weather. We have good, good fun at the end with Griller Jeopardy, and I actually mentioned Scott's name, and
nice.
and that this sets us apart from other podcasts because we're not all straight weather. We try to have a little fun, and Scott was very appreciative that I had mentioned that and mentioned his name, and Scott, no problem.
Oh, and by the way, I was in St. Augustine, Florida. And if you've never been to St. Augustine, Florida, and you're into history, it's a treasure trove. It's a beautiful little city. It's the oldest city in the United States, by the way.
Didn't
Which,
know that.
yes, I knew it, forgot it, and then was reminded when I got there. But from the standpoint of history, um, you could spend weeks there. They have um, the original fort that was set up back in the 1500s when I can't remember their names now. When the Spanish had laid claim to Florida, and then they were battling with the British, and St. Augustine was burned down by the British like half a dozen times. But it is really it's a beautiful town, and a lot to see there. And if you're into golf, I think the PGA Golf Museum is also in St. Augustine. Plus, they have a Buc-ee's at exit 323 on I-95. So write that down.
I seem to remember that Citgo this goes back now into the mid '60s. They used to have a campaign, an advertising campaign on radio and television, where they said, "Citgo, we know you don't want to live there, but it is a nice place to visit."
Yeah. Mark Franz, yes, Mark, you're right. For the first Christian Indian settlement, it was in St. Augustine. A ton of history there, just an absolute ton of history, and a beautiful church and cemetery. Our Lady of La Leche, patron saint of birth mothers, and there's an old cemetery there, Joe. There's one section where the Sisters of Saint Joseph are buried. I looked for Charlie Ed.
Couldn't find her though.
No, couldn't find her. But there's one section there that uh, six nuns they're all buried. They all died within about 3 or 4 years of each other in the late 1870s, early 1880s, and they're again fascinating place, just an absolutely fascinating place.
Well, in light of the fact that we don't have Briller Jeopardy this evening, here's a joke. Are you ready for a joke?
Okay.
Why did the two science teachers start dating?
Why did the two science teachers start dating? I don't know, Joe. Why did the two science teachers start dating?
Because they had good chemistry.
Oh, God. No.
And this is from somebody.
I did see a very interesting Elon Musk tweet today.
Yeah.
And it was also an old. Apparently, it's an old joke among tech people. Okay. Let me see if I can find it. But go on. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm just saying it sounds very much, that joke sounds very much like my own family. My son, the physics teacher, and my daughter-in-law, the chemistry teacher. So yes, they had good chemistry and got together, got married, and there you go.
Let me see if I can find this Elon Musk. Elon Musk. Oh, I accidentally hit the letter H and put Elon Mush. Of course, we follow each other on Twitter. He reads me almost, almost hourly, just so you know. This is frustrating because I want Elon Musk. All right, here we go. It's just taking forever to load here. Here we go. Okay. Oh, here it is. So, it is. So, the old joke about the agnostic technologist building artificial superintelligence to find out if there's a God. They finally finish and ask the question to the AI bot, is there a God? And the AI replies, there is now, MFS.
Okay.
I didn't say what MFS meant, but you could just kind of figure it out.
That almost sounds like the Isaac Asimov story, The Last Question, where scientists keep asking, can entropy be reversed? Is it possible that in other words, can you take a star that has burned out and is now completely gone and re-energize it and start it up again? So this way, the universe does not go completely dark in tens of billions of years. And finally, the universe does go dark, and there's only one thing left, and that is a universal computer which oversees the universe, or what was once a universe. And he has been asked this. The last question was, can entropy be reversed? Finally, this last universal computer has the answer, but now he can't tell anybody how to solve this problem. So he says, I'll do it by demonstration. And he sets up the program over a timeless era. And then when he's got everything all set and ready, and he turned the page, the last page, the universal AC said, let there be light. And the universe starts up again.
Oh, God. Well, I don't know. This AI stuff is on the crazy side, but no matter. Okay. So we wrapped it up for tonight. Again, reminder in 18 minutes on my YouTube channel, Joe Cioffi Weather. You can watch the Stormfront Freaks podcast. Joe Rayo was a guest last night along with James Spann. And Jen Walton was supposed to be there, but she had to back out the last minute. But James Brayton, Michael Mihalik, Phil Johnson, all there, 8:45 p.m. So just make sure you watch it, okay? And we will. Well, at the very least, I will be back. I'll be on tomorrow night and take a look. We'll see what's happening with all the severe weather that's going on, and then the next show after that. Well, maybe we might want to do something Saturday evening, Joe, if you're around. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I got no plans.
Well, I'm not going to be going anywhere either. So
okay,
maybe
Saturday we could do the with the system coming through Saturday evening. So maybe we'll do a show Saturday night. How's that? So
that's a possibility.
Hang on, guys.
As Muskie used to say to Deputy Dog, it's possible. It's possible.
It's possible. Yes, it's very possible. It's also possible that we could get 10 more likes before we say goodnight. I'd like to say goodnight in 2 minutes. So if you could take us to 100 likes, and if you haven't hit the like button and take us over 100 likes, you could get us off the air. So we're at 94, 94, 96.
I got 97.
You're always ahead of me. I have the control board here from YouTube, and somehow you get the numbers faster than I do.
98.
No, I just went to 97.
I got 98 on my board here. Come on, I want to ring the bell.
98.
99. 100.
And
there you go.
Nobody be a smart aleck and unlike, okay?
Right.
Okay, on that note, we'll leave it at that, and we'll see you all tomorrow night. At least I'll see you tomorrow night probably, and then Joe and I will see you maybe on Saturday night. And watch the show at the podcast, the Stormfront Freaks podcast at 8:45. Good night, everybody.
Night, folks.